विहारी जय कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा कृष्ण रुक्मिणी जय सत्यभामा जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 अंतरा और नेता आय आ बंधु बीशु बंधु कई कर्म श्रेयसी कर्म श्रेय अवे इह श्रेय अवे श्रेय अवेदिह भारतम आख्या भारतम इति भारतम कृपया मुनिना कृत कृपया मुनिना कृत कृपया मुनिना कृत ईशु तद्विजबन्धूनां कयिन श्रुतिगोचरा श्रेयसीनां श्रेय एवं भवेदिह इति भारतमाख्यानं कृपया मुनिना कृतं श्रीशूद्रद्विजबन्धूनां कयिन श्रुतिगोचरा कर्म श्रेयसि मोक्षाणां श्रेय एवं भवेदिह इति भारतमाख्यानं कृपया मुनिना कृतम्. The woman class, Shudra, laboring class, Vijabandhunam, of the friends of the twice born, Trai, three, not, Shruti-gochara, for understanding, Karma, in activities, Preyasi, welfare, Mudhanam, of the fools, Preyaha, supreme benefit, Evam, thus, Bhavet, achieved, Iha, by this, Iti, thus thinking, Bharatam, the great Mahabharata, Akhyanam, historical facts, Kripaya, out of great mercy, Munina, by the Muni, Kritam, translation, quote by divine grace. Out of compassion, it say, thought it wise that this would end the goal of life. Thus, while the great history called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, friends, the twice born. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The friends of the twice born, those who are born in Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishya, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their fathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purification. The purificatory acts begin even before the birth of a seed-giving process called Garbhadhana Samskara. One who has not undergone such Garbhadhana Samskara or spiritual family is not accepted as being of an actual twice born. The Garbhadhana Samskara followed by other purificatory processes, out of which sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskara, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed-giving samskara. Second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important samskaras can be called a bona fide twice born. If the father and the mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning, they beget children out of passion, their children are called Dvijabandhus. These Dvijabandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice-born families. The Dvijabandhus are classified with the one class who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the woman class do not have to undergo any samskara save and accept the ceremony. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudras, qualified sons of the higher caste, are devoid of necessary qualification to understand the purpose of the transcendent Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas. Therefore, within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy. Therefore, the philosophy of the Vedas, in the form of the Bhagavad-gita, is spoken by Lord Sri Krishna. Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane. Therefore, they collaborated doing good to the fallen souls of the Bhagavad-gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual value, as the Upanishads are. Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study by the spiritual graduate. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. He is a great science, great professor, the Lord himself, in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Persons who are empowered by him can initiate others the transcendental loving Lord. Thus in Om Ajnanatya Chakshurunmya Asmai Ve Avom Aya Aya Bhute Himate Bhakti Santa Amin Amine Namaste Saraswate Deve Auravani Pracharine Asuvadi Achatya Karine Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mokam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Sri Gurum Deenataranam. Recently, Tamil Nadu, some right person organized a conference to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. All the past years, this is not the first year that this conference has been organized. Earlier, they used to, all these years until now, they would organize the conference under the name of opposing Sanatana Dharma. This year, they went one step further and said, this is a conference to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. And this conference actually was a very obscure conference. Nobody had heard of it, at least had never heard of it. But it was propelled into the limelight because many ministers, including the chief minister and the endowments minister, who is in charge of all the temples in Tamil Nadu, he also attended. And in that conference, one of the politicians, while speaking, he made a statement. Diseases like dengue, COVID, they cannot be opposed, they have to be eradicated. Similarly, Sanatana Dharma also has to be abolished, it has to be eradicated. It was very much in keeping with the conference, the purpose for which the conference was being conducted. Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama. So no surprise in this. But because the conference itself was unknown, and suddenly this politician making this statement, it came out into the electronic media. It went viral. And then there was a big hue and cry. And people started saying that this man is calling for genocide. He is saying that all Hindus they should all be killed. Another extreme, went to another extreme. So this politician was forced to give a clarification. No, I did not call for any genocide. I only said Sanatana Dharma has to be eradicated because there are so many evils in this. So then, but the controversy did not die down and it went national. Everybody started talking about it, and there was no support coming for this politician from any quarters. But of course, that political party to which this politician belonged had naturally to support him. They had no other go than to support him. So one of the ministers, he gave a clarification. He said, what actually he meant was, oppression and all these are only that. Cool down. Agonize. So then there was back and forth. Now, today's verse, Sri Shudra Dvijabandhu Kruti Go. The purpose or sense Bhagavatam is Sri Dvijabandhu. For the women, the Shudra class, and Dvijabandhus, those who are relatives of the higher classes, Kshatriyas and Brahmanas, but who are not qualified to be called Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. Trayina Shruti Gochara, for these three classes of people, they cannot understand the Vedas. So, this seems to give credence to what the politicians are saying. That women are oppressed in the Vedic Sanatana Dharma. They are considered less intelligent. How can you call women less intelligent? The president of this country is a woman. And there are so many women leaders all over the world. Even European countries, there have been women who have led the countries, whether it is England, whether it is Germany, France, all have seen women leaders leading the country. And not only that, we can see even in the corporate world, many women are coming forward, becoming entrepreneurs. They are heading big, big companies. And we can see nowadays when the results are announced for, say, entrance examination or any major discipline of knowledge, whether it is school or college, you will see that the girls always score more than the boys. So how can you say women are less intelligent? So all these are simply, the Vedas are simply oppressing women, and they are meant for exploitation of women by men. So it seems to give credence to such kind of statements. So looks like the politician was very right in what he was saying. So if we look at it a little more deeply to understand this statement by the Bhagavatam, not only by the Bhagavatam, in many places in the Vedic scriptures we can see it is stated that the women are less intelligent. They are classified with the lower classes like Shudras, so that they cannot study the Vedic scriptures, they are not fit, they are not qualified, they are less intelligent, etc., etc. So, how to understand these statements in the Vedic scriptures? So, in the Vishnu Purana, it is stated, Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta, Kshetra Jnakya Tata Para, Avidya Karma Sanjnanya Tritiya Shakti Rishyate. Lord Vishnu has three fundamental energies. The Lord has unlimited energies. But all of his energies can be classified under three broad categories. What are these three broad categories of the Lord's energies? The first is Vishnu Shaktihi Paraprokta. There is the superior energy of Vishnu or Krishna, which is the internal energy, the Antaranga Shakti of Krishna. And this internal energy is Parashakti. It is the superior energy. So superior energy means there must be something inferior also. So Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta Kshetrajna Kya Tata Para. There is one more superior energy of Krishna, which is called the Kshetrajna Shakti. Kshetrajna means knower of the field of activities. So in the Bhagavad-gita also we find this same terminology which is used, Kshetrajna, to refer to the living entity, to the soul. Why? Because this body is the field of activities. And this body by itself is not conscious. It does not possess the faculty of awareness. Although my eyes are seeing, the eyes are not aware that they are seeing. If you take a dead body and pass various kinds of images in front of the eye of the dead body, there will be no sensation, although the eye is still there. Similarly, the nose, the ears, in a dead body also ears are there. You go and play nice music to the dead body, will it appreciate, oh, beautiful music? No. Why? Because the soul is not there. So, only when the soul is present within the body, whenever there are activities conducted within the field of the body, we become aware of it. Therefore, the soul is called Kshetrajna, the knower of the field of activities. The field of activity, the body is different. The knower of the body is different. So, two superior energies of Krishna. One is the internal energy of Krishna, another is the living entity or the Atma or the soul, also known as the Kshetrajna. Avidya karma sanjnanya tritiya shaktirishyate. Tritiya shakti. The third energy of the Lord, which is the inferior energy, is called avidya karma sanjnanya. Sanjna means you denote some object by a particular name. That is called sanjna. So avidya karma, the energy of Krishna, which is called avidya karma, that is the inferior energy. So when we say avidya, it means ignorance, and karma means activities. So the energy which creates ignorance and impels the living entity to engage in material activities is called the inferior energy or the external energy of Krishna. So these are the three energies. First is the internal energy, Antaranga Shakti. Second is the Kshetrajna or the Jiva Shakti, which is also called the Tatastha Shakti. And the third energy, which is Avidya Karma Shakti, or also known as the Bahiranga Shakti. Now the next verse of the Vishnu Purana states, Yaya Kshetrajna Shakti Sha Veshtita Nrupasarvaga. So this Kshetrajna Shakti, this living entity or the Atma, what happens is that Yaya, by which the Kshetrajna Shakti or the living entity Veshtita becomes covered. So, by which? By whom? Yaya, the word Yaya is used. Yaya means by whom. So, the living entity is covered by whom? By whom is it covered? Because the previous verse ended with Avidya Karma. That means the inferior energy. So, when the inferior energy covers the living entity, what happens? Although Sarvaga, the living entity, can live anywhere. The living entity can live in the spiritual world, it can live in the material world also. Therefore, the living entity is called Sarvaga. Although the living entity can live both in the spiritual world or material world, when it gets covered by the inferior energy, what happens? The living entity, when it is covered by the inferior energy, samsara tapan akhilan. So all the samsara tapa, all the distresses which are there in the material world, samsara tapan akhilan santatan. So avapnoti atra santatan, the living entity has to undergo, avapnoti atra, he has to undergo all the miseries, samsara tapa, which are there within this material world. Santatan, constantly he has to undergo the distress. Tapa, when we say tapa, normally even the miseries are all types of miseries are also classified into three categories. Tapatraya, we say, mean three type of miseries. What are the three types of miseries? Adhyatmika klesha, adhibhautika klesha, and adhidaivika klesha. So the tapatraya, the three forms of miseries, are classified as miseries arising out of my own body and mind. My body falls sick, my mind goes under depression, my own body and my mind gives me trouble, which is called adhyatmika klesha. And then adhibhautika klesha, other living entities give me trouble. Just like we are seeing now, there is a big war going on. War has started between Israel and Palestine. Palestine suddenly sent some 200 rockets into Israel. So many people were killed, and Israel has immediately started air strikes upon Palestine. So you see, both of them are giving trouble to each other. Adi bhautika klesha. Both of them can live peacefully. Why we have to attack each other? Live peacefully, no? No. I want to create trouble for the other guy. Adi bhautika klesha. Then there is adi daivika klesha, which is miseries arising out of natural calamities, which are beyond the control of the human people. Earthquakes, floods, forest fires, all such kind of calamities, when they occur, there is hardly anything we can do. So these are arising out of greater forces of material nature. So samsara tapa, so this samsara, this material world is full of this tapa, all these kind of miseries. Samsara tapan akhilan avapnoti santatan. So constantly the living entity has to undergo all these miseries. Why does it have to undergo? Why should we undergo all these miseries? Because by that material energy, veshtitaha, the living entity becomes covered. So the marginal energy of which is the living entity, although it belongs to the superior energy, it gets covered by the inferior energy, because of which it has to be within this material world and constantly undergo miseries. Although Sarvaga, the living entity, can stay in the spiritual world, which is fully blissful and where there is no miseries of any of these kind. But still, the living entity has to come to this material world and undergo repeated birth, death, disease, old age, and undergo all these three kinds of miseries. Tayotirohitatvacha shaktihi kshetrajna sanjnita. The next words of the Vishnu Purana states that because of the covering of the inferior energy upon the living entity, which is also known as kshetrajna, what happens is sarva bhuteshu bhupala taratamyena vartate. So because the living entity has got covered by the inferior energy, number one, it has to be within this material world and undergo repeated miseries, which actually it is not liable to undergo. The second thing is sarva bhuteshu taratamyena vartate. It has to take on different bodies and different species. Taratamyena, which may be higher or lower. So the gradation of bodies which the living entity, although belonging to the superior energy of Krishna, has to take up, it has to occupy, it has to get engaged within a material body, within this material universe, because of being covered by the inferior energy of Krishna. And all such different species, there are 84 lakh species in which there are different kinds of bodies. There are human species, animal species, bird species, aquatics, etc. So 84 lakh species, the different bodies are created for the living entity to occupy. And they are graded as superior and inferior, taratamyena. Taratamyena means they are graded as superior and inferior. So that grading of superior and inferior is based upon how much the material energy, the inferior energy of Krishna is covering the consciousness of the living entity. We say that the trees and plants, they are the lowest species. And we say animals are more evolved than plants and trees. Human beings are even more evolved than animals. Why do we say that? Why are humans higher than animals and animals are higher than trees and plants? Because the covering of the material energy is different in each of these. The covering of the material energy is most intense in the case of plants and trees. And the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Krishna gives the example, ethol bein avriyate. So just like the garbha, the embryo is covered by the womb. Like that, the consciousness of the plants and trees are covered. That means within the womb, there is no possibility of light penetrating. It is very dark. So if you have to uncover the child within the womb, it's not possible immediately. The child has to complete its term of 9 months within the womb of the mother, and only when it comes out, it will be able to see light. So the covering of the child within the womb is complete, very dark. So similarly, the consciousness of the plants and trees is very deeply covered. So therefore, it is compared that way. And then there is, if there is a malena, if there is dust which is covering a mirror, how do you uncover, suppose there is a mirror which has been kept for long period of time, for several years. There is a thick layer of dust on that. Now if you have to clean that and remove and bring out the shining of the mirror, it takes a lot of endeavor. You have to sit and you have to do, you have to do mandira marjana, you have to do, cleaning, quite a bit amount of cleaning you have to do. It will not uncover so easily. But still, compared to the child within the womb of the mother, it's far easier to uncover the dust on the mirror. So this is how the consciousness of the animals is. And when it comes to human beings, dhumena vriyate vahnihi. Just like smoke is covering the fire. Little bit you fan the smoke, immediately fire will come out and smoke will disappear. Very little effort is required. So that is the consciousness of the human beings. So we can see this gradation of higher consciousness and lower consciousness in this material world. The classification of higher and lower consciousness, even in the material world, the materialists also, they also accept that human form of life is higher than animals and plants. Their classification is based on what? The ability to exploit material nature. Animals, they have to eat. They will go and eat raw food. They will eat grass. They will go and, carnivores will go and kill some animal and eat raw flesh. Human beings, they will go to the kitchen, take the same ingredients, cook it nicely, put some spices, make it tasty and present it in a nice, a palatable way, and then they will eat it sitting on a table with a knife and fork. Activity is the same, eating, but the humans are able to do it better. The animal, the dog and the cat will sleep under a culvert or in the street. The human being will sleep in a nice bungalow, in a nice flat, high-rise apartment on the 30th floor in the penthouse, switch on all the ACs, comfortably sleep in the night. Sleeping activity is the same, but the human being is able to do it better than animals. So, human beings have a higher intelligence by which they can exploit material nature. Therefore, humans are more evolved than animals. This is how a materialist sees. But the Vedic scriptures are not seeing like that. They are seeing in which form the consciousness is more evolved. The covering of the material energy is lesser. That is called a higher species. So humans have an ability to understand spiritual subject matter. They can follow religious practices. They can question, why do I have to suffer in this material world? Why do I have to undergo the tapatraya, the three kinds of miseries? Why do I have to undergo repeated birth, death, disease and old age? Therefore, because the humans can question this, but animals and plants and birds and aquatics cannot, therefore humans are considered more evolved than animals and the lower species. So the gradation of lower and higher in the Vedic scriptures is not according to the ability to exploit material nature, but according to the degree of uncovering of the material energy. So you see, when the scriptures are saying that some living entity is superior and some living entity is inferior, the mood, the consciousness, the background based on which, the reasoning based on which the Vedic scriptures are making this statement is completely different from the reasoning when such statements are made by the materialists. And because man and woman, all human beings, have the same level of intelligence and capability to exploit material nature, the materialist will say the women and men are equal. You cannot say that they are less intelligent. You look at women, they can also become leaders in the society. They can also head big corporates, and they can also perform well in any discipline of knowledge which is there. You go to any college, women also perform well. They also get ranks. They also head big corporates. They also are able to lead countries. So all of these activities are exploitation of material nature. So they assess based on the ability to exploit material nature. Women can also exploit equally. So therefore, women and men are equal. And therefore, the Vedic scriptures are making such a discrimination of higher and lower, because the person who is higher gets an opportunity to exploit the person who is called lower. So the man wants to exploit the woman, and therefore the Shastras are saying woman is less intelligent. But that's not the basis of judgment given by the Vedic scriptures. The Vedic scriptures are going by what is the degree of uncovering of material energy. Which species has the greater ability to comprehend spiritual subject matter and the philosophy which is there in the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutras, that living entity is called higher. So the different kinds of bodies which are created in this material world, like that of the animals, trees, plants, etc., they are all created to cover the consciousness of the living entity. So if a living entity has done more punya, has done more pious activities, he will get a body which has greater degree of uncovering of the material energy. He will have a greater ability to comprehend the truths about this material world, about why miseries are there, etc. To be able to question, is there a possibility by which I can become free from this cycle of repeated birth and death? So, like that capability is given to the human form, even within the human society, there are certain classes of people who have got that ability. Not all human beings can ask this question. Why do I have to suffer in this material world? Is there a way I can cross over this ocean of birth and death? Not everybody in the human society can also ask this question. Some people are constantly asking this question, how can I improve my economic position? How can I improve my political position? How can I improve my knowledge of material science? How can I improve the comforts in the society? So some people are constantly engaged in this kind of inquiry, which is actually impelled by the avidya energy, avidya shakti. The bahiranga shakti, the inferior energy, impels the living entity to work to improve economic development and material comforts. So if a person's goal in life and his purpose in life is economic development and improvement of the material conveniences and comforts, then according to the Vedas, he is a lower personality. And if somebody is not bothered about money, about material designation, material power and social prestige and status, he is not bothered about these things. He is bothered how to attain liberation, how to get moksha or mukti, such a person is called superior. So generally speaking, what happens is, those living entities who have got enough punya karma for the covering of the material energy to be removed to the extent that he is able to make this kind of inquiry into material, in the material world. How do I overcome the forces of material nature? Such a person, if he has got enough punya karma, such a body is given where he can make this inquiry. And that body where he can make this inquiry, in the human society also, it is generally more conducive in a man's body. In a woman's body, the mind and the intelligence are so designed that this inquiry to crop up is very difficult. Not impossible, possible, but it is very rare. We are talking of averages. So in the Vedic tradition also, there have been great woman personalities like Devahuti, who became the mother of the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Deva, or it is Kunti, Draupadi. All such great personalities are all women, and their prayers have been recorded in the Bhagavatam, in the Vedic literature. So women can also develop this kind of spiritual inquiry, but then the percentage, if you compare the percentage of men and the percentage of women will be lower, because that body mind system is not designed for that. So although this may be so, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, Mam hi vyapashritte yepi syuh papayoneha striyo vaisyas tata shudras tepi yanti param gatim. So although a woman's body and mind and intelligence may not be conducive for spiritual knowledge and spiritual inquiry, still if they surrender to Krishna, then they can overcome the influence of the material energy, and they can also be elevated to a higher position. Which is what today's verse is also saying, that Vyasadeva saw that how for a woman it is very difficult to understand the high philosophy of the Vedas, but he was concerned, but women should not be deprived of the benefits of that Vedic knowledge. So how to benefit them, how to present it to them so that in such a way that they are able to easily comprehend and assimilate such knowledge. So Stri Shudra Dvijabandhunam Traina Shrutigochara Karma Shreyasi Mudhanam Shreyayevam Bhavediha Shreyayevam Bhavediha. How can they also benefit from this spiritual knowledge? That was the thinking of Veda Vyasa. Iti Bharatamakyanam. Therefore, Kripaya, out of great compassion, Munina, that great sage Vyasadeva, Bharatamakyanam, he compiled the Mahabharata, in the midst of which he put the Bhagavad-gita, which is the essence of all the Vedic scriptures. So women are not denied the advantages of the Vedic knowledge, but the way it is presented in the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra, it is very difficult for a woman to comprehend. Not only woman, even if it is a man who is born in the family of a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, but he does not have the required qualification, then even he cannot comprehend. Stri Shudra Dvijabandhunam. So those who are born in Brahmana families, but who do not have the qualification of being a Brahmana, even they cannot understand the import of the Vedas. So therefore, the same knowledge has been presented in the Mahabharata and in the Bhagavad-gita in a way in which all these Dvijabandhus and the women can also easily comprehend. And if they read the Bhagavad-gita and become devotees of Krishna, then what happens? Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, Daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. Those who surrender to Krishna, whether it is woman or Shudra or Dvijabandhu, doesn't matter. The moment they surrender to Krishna, mayametam tarantite, they cross over the Maya energy, the inferior energy of Krishna. And so therefore, Prabhupada says, if a woman becomes a devotee of Krishna, then she is no more considered as a less intelligent woman. She becomes as equally qualified as a man who is practicing Krishna consciousness. So even a woman can become equal on the spiritual platform with a man when she engages in devotional service to Krishna. So, so we can understand from this that the Vedas are not discriminative on the basis of the ability to exploit material nature and the classification of higher and lower, whether it is the caste system that Brahmanas are higher and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Shudras are lower, or men are higher than women. All such classification of higher and lower is not for exploitation or oppression for one's own personal benefits, but it is based on the covering of the material energy. And while we say all these things, before I close, one last perspective when it comes to women being lower or higher. In the Bhagavad-gita, in the 15th chapter, what does Krishna do? Very beginning, he gives an example. He gives the example of a tree. Urdhamulam adashakam ashwattam prahur avyayam. Krishna speaks of a Ashwatha tree. This Ashwatha banyan tree, which has its roots upward and the branches downward. Have we ever seen such a tree? All trees have the roots in the ground and the branches are upward. So Krishna is speaking of a tree which has its root upward and the branches are downward. How is it possible? It is possible if we go to a river bank. If you go to a river bank and there is some tree which is growing on the bank of the river, when the river is full with water and you look at the reflection of the tree in the water, what will happen? The reflection will be reversed. So Krishna likens this material world to a tree which is upside down, meaning this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So whatever is higher in the spiritual world is lower in this material world, and whatever is considered low in the material world is high in the spiritual world. So in this material world, women are considered less intelligence and they are considered lower than men. Now you go to Goloka Vrindavan, spiritual world. Who are the topmost devotees of Krishna? It's all women. The gopis. They are the highest devotees of Krishna. So if you want to become the topmost devotee, you cannot be a man. You have to become a woman. This is the reality. That's why we also sing every day in the morning when we worship the Tulsi Maharani. What do we sing? We sing that Dasi, Nija Dasi. We sing to Vrinda Devi that please make me your maid servant, Dasi. We don't sing, Koro Nija Dasa, we don't say. We say Nija Dasi. So this song, even men devotees also sing, women devotees also sing. So the highest aspiration for a man in this material world is to become a ruler or whatever and control over, all kinds of men and women. But the highest aspiration a man can have to go to the spiritual world is to become a maid servant, a woman in the spiritual world. That is the highest position. So whatever is highest in the spiritual world is automatically the lowest in the material world. So therefore, woman's body is naturally lower, considered lower in the material world, but in the spiritual world it is the reverse. So therefore, all these contradictions, apparent contradictions, can be reconciled only when you come to Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, nobody else can explain why the Vedic scriptures make this differentiation and discrimination as somebody is higher and lower on the terms of their caste, in terms of their birth, or in terms of their gender. Why do such discriminations exist? Nobody can explain the way Prabhupada has explained. So it is only in devotional service that all these apparent contradictions in the Vedic scriptures can be reconciled, and we can understand that the Vedic scriptures are apaurusheya, they are completely perfect, and whatever they are saying is the truth, and there is no question of any exploitation or discrimination simply on the basis of some unjustifiable reasons because of which we have to eradicate Sanatana Dharma. So that's what we can understand from today's verse. So I'll stop here. If anybody has any question, we can discuss.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I have two questions. One is, you told that Kshetranya is the Atma. Kshetra is the body. What is the Paramatma terminology used in Sanskrit, Prabhu?
I'm sorry.
Like Kshetranya is the Atma.
Chetana is Atma.
Kshetrajna.
Chaitanya.
Kshetrajna.
Sorry. The audio is not so clear. Kshetrajna, okay.
Yeah. Is the Atma, right?
Is the Atma.
Kshetra is the body.
Kshetra is the body.
What is the terminology used for Paramatma?
For Paramatma. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita that Paramatma is also Kshetrajna, the Jivatma is also Kshetrajna, but Kshetrajna Mam Viddhi Sarva Bhuteshu. Krishna says, Krishna is the Kshetrajna of all the bodies. I am Kshetrajna of only the body which I am occupying. I cannot know the miseries and pleasures of a living entity of a Kshetrajna of some other body. Anyo Veda Nachanya Dukkham, the gopis sing, that one person cannot understand the miseries of the other person. If you are undergoing some pain, I cannot understand that pain. I can empathize with you, but I cannot experience what you are experiencing, what pleasure or pain you are experiencing. But Paramatma can experience the pleasure and pain of what every living entity is undergoing in every body. So therefore, he is Kshetrajnam Chapi Mam Viddhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Krishna says he is also Kshetrajna, but he is a Kshetrajna who knows what is going on in every body. Whereas we as a Kshetrajna, we have the same quality of being a Kshetrajna like Krishna, but our being Kshetrajna is limited to the body which we are occupying. So the Paramatma is also called Kshetrajna, the living entity is also called Kshetrajna, but with a difference in the quantum of ability of knowing the Kshetra. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Second question, Prabhu. I don't know if I can ask this question here. Regarding, you told women are, when they become Krishna conscious or enter bhakti, they are not less intelligent. So, is it possible, is it somewhere in Shastric Vedas, it is mentioned that women can become a guru? Can you just put some light on it, Prabhu?
Well, if you look at what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiba Shudra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kenanai. He said, you don't look at the material qualifications of a person, whether he is a Shudra, whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc. Ye Krishna Tattva Veta, say Guru Hoya. So one who knows the signs of Krishna consciousness can become a Guru. So the one who knows the signs of Krishna consciousness. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not say, any man who knows the signs of Krishna's consciousness. He said, anybody who knows Krishna consciousness. That means men and women are included in that. Number one. Number two, we may not have any specific instructions in the Vedic scriptures that women can also become gurus. But if you look at the lives of great personalities, there is Janava Mata, who was the wife of Nityananda Prabhu. She acted as a spiritual master for so many people. So there have been practical examples of women playing the role of spiritual master also. The point is, once you take it the other way, what do the Vedic scriptures tell about a pure devotee spiritual master? Spiritual master means he has to be an Uttamadhikari. Nobody other than an Uttamadhikari can become a Diksha Guru or a Guru. Isn't it? Spiritual master means he has to be a liberated person. Otherwise he cannot become Guru. Prabhupada gives the example, if my hand is tied behind my back and your hand is also tied, I cannot untie you. I can untie you only when my hands are untied. So if I am tied down by the three modes of material nature, if I am not a liberated person, how can I become a Guru and liberate you? Not possible. So Guru has to be from the liberated platform, he has to be an Uttamadhikari. This is what Prabhupada has taught all of us. Now the Vedic scriptures, what do the Vedic scriptures state? Gurushu Naramatihi. One who thinks that the Guru, who is a pure devotee, has a material body. That kind of mentality is actually Naraki Buddhi. It is a hellish mentality. When we look at Prabhupada, do we ever think that Prabhupada's body is material? No, Prabhupada's body is completely spiritual. And that is why Prabhupada, when he left the planet, his body was not burned, cremated like the rest of us. He was given Samadhi, because his body is transcendental. If we go to Srirangam even today, the Srirangam temple, there is the outside the Srirangam temple, there is a temple for Ramanujacharya. The original body of Ramanujacharya is there even today, as it is. There is no decay, there is no stinking, there is no decomposition, which happens to material bodies. But for Ramanujacharya's body, it is not happening. Why? Because his body is spiritual. So, if you start assessing the body of a pure devotee, that he has a material body, Vaishnave Jati Buddhi, to think that this Vaishnava is born in a particular Jati, oh, he is a Vaishnava born in a Vaishya family, he is a Vaishnava born in a Brahmana family, he is a Shudra Vaishnava. You cannot think like that. If you think like that, again, it is a aparadha, it is a hellish mentality. So, if a pure devotee takes a woman's body and comes to this material world, then you cannot see that person like you see a material woman. That body of woman taken by a pure devotee will be transcendental. At the moment it is transcendental, it does not have any of the limitations of the material body of a material woman. All the limitations and whatever are given for the body of a woman, that Traina, Shruti Gochara and all these kind of things, they are for the material body of a woman. If the body is spiritual, how can this limitation apply? And if you apply this limitation on the spiritual body, then that body is no more spiritual, it is material. So, if a pure devotee chooses to descend in a woman's body, it is no longer material. You cannot assess it like an ordinary woman. So, that person, because pure devotee has come in a woman's body, that the woman can also play the role of a spiritual master, no problem. So, the point is, why we come up with these questions? Can woman be a spiritual master or not? Should we have female Diksha Gurus or not? These all questions come up because when we are under the wrong impression that even a material conditioned soul can also become a spiritual master, then all these questions come. If you accept, as Prabhupada has repeatedly taught in his books, that only an Uttamadhikari Vaishnava who is transcendental to this material world can become a Diksha Guru, then where is the question of body? If even he takes an animal body, he can come and liberate you. That's the reality. You look at the Supreme Lord, he took the body of a boar, Varahadev, completely transcendental, no? Can he not liberate anyone in that transcendental body of a Varaha? If you think, oh, the Lord has incarnated as a Varaha, he cannot give me transcendental knowledge, he cannot liberate me. He has to take human body, because human body is higher than animal body. Only then I can get transcendental knowledge. What can I say? Similarly, pure devotee also, because he is completely spiritual, even if he comes in an animal's body, he can liberate you. This is the reality. Forget about female, male and all these things. Where is the question of all these things? These kind of questions crop up only when we think that even a materially conditioned soul can also become a guru. Then the question comes, oh, materially conditioned means man can act, can woman act or not? You understand? So if a pure devotee descends to this material world, he is not limited by the body. Whether he takes a man's body, woman's body, animal body, devata body, plant body, whichever body he takes, he will be a pure devotee, he will be capable of liberating us. This is the reality. So, that question itself in one sense is not relevant. Is that okay? Any other point?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Prabhu, sometimes a jiva, by birth he might be a conditioned soul, but by the association of a pure devotee, he might be liberated completely, he might achieve the complete highest perfection of love of God. So such a jiva, can he become a spiritual master?
He can become, provided his predecessor spiritual master orders him. The criterion is, one criterion is, the qualification required to become spiritual master is that he has to be a pure devotee. But that alone is not enough. A pure devotee will never take upon himself the role of a spiritual master without an order from Krishna and the predecessor Acharya. So unless these conditions are met, a person cannot become a spiritual master. So there may be many pure devotees who may come to this material world to participate in the Leelas of Krishna. They may not necessarily perform the role of an Acharya. Like Arjuna. Arjuna was not a pure devotee. Pure devotee, no? How many disciples did he have? How many people did he initiate? How many people did he give Diksha to? He was not playing that role, no? Vyasadeva was playing that role. So Vyasadeva had a disciple. So we have to understand that, pure devotees Arjuna was a pure devotee. He could have played the role of a spiritual master. But Krishna did not tell him to, so he did not do it. He had some other task which was assigned to him by Krishna, so he performed that. So, even though one may be a pure devotee, unless one is ordered by Krishna and the predecessor Acharya, one cannot act as a spiritual master. One will not act as a spiritual master. This is the fundamental point. Okay? So we'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Netai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.